Her strength isn't loud, but it's unshakable. You may not notice her when she walks in the room. She doesn't demand attention, doesn't raise her voice, doesn't need to flex for you to feel her presence. She doesn't dress her strength up in performance. You feel it in how she moves, measured, deliberate, grounded. You feel it in how she looks you in the eye, not to challenge but to connect. You feel it in her silence, in the stillness that follows after the storm when everyone else is broken and she's still standing. That's the kind of strength that doesn't make headlines. It just keeps homes together. It keeps families afloat. It holds dreams that haven't even been spoken yet. See, we've been taught to look for power in noise. Power that stomps, that shouts, that shows up with a crowd and demands recognition. But the power I'm talking about, real, unwavering, sacred strength, it doesn't look for validation. It's not interested in applause. It's the strength that wakes up at 4 a.m. to pray for a child that's lost. It's the strength that smiles through tears so her kids never see her fall apart. It's the kind that stays when others leave, that listens when others shout, that gives even when there's nothing left to give. It's not the kind of strength that wants a stage. It's the kind that makes stages possible for everybody else. She's the woman who carries the weight without complaint. Not because she has to, but because she knows she was built for it. She knows that storms don't scare her. They refine her. She knows that when life throws bricks, she doesn't just duck, she builds hope. She builds healing. She builds futures with pieces no one thought could be used again. And no, she's not invincible. She hurts, she cries, but even in her weakness, she's strong, because her strength is not the absence of pain. It's the decision to keep moving through it. You won't find her name on every billboard. You might not even remember it after she's left the room. But you'll remember how she made you feel. You'll remember that when you were falling apart, she didn't lecture you. She sat next to you and held your hand. You'll remember that when you thought you were done, she spoke life into you. That's her power. Her words aren't loud, but they echo. Her presence doesn't overpower, but it changes the atmosphere, because her strength lives in the spirit. It doesn't shout, it shifts. She's the woman who chooses forgiveness when bitterness would be easier, who stands in grace even when disrespected, who leads without shouting and loves without limits. And don't confuse that for weakness. Don't confuse softness for surrender. It takes more courage to be kind than it does to be cruel. It takes more strength to stay open when life has tried to shut you down again and again. It takes more power to rise slowly, intentionally, after each fall, than it does to pretend like you never got knocked down. She rises with scars, and she wears them like armor, not to show off, but to remind herself that she made it. That everything that was sent to destroy her only made her stronger. See, a woman of worth doesn't perform strength, she embodies it. Her peace is her protest, her joy is her resistance, her patience is her weapon, and if you're wise, you'll learn from her. You'll lean in, because she holds a wisdom that's been earned, not taught. She's the sum of every silent battle, every prayer whispered into her pillow, every night she stayed up just to make sure someone else could sleep. The world often overlooks women like her because the world mistakes volume for value, but she knows who she is. She doesn't need to be loud because she's deeply rooted. She's not easily moved because she's anchored in something bigger than circumstances. She doesn't need to match the chaos around her. She brings calm to it. While others react, she responds. While others panic, she prepares. While others chase, she creates, and that's unshakable. She doesn't broadcast her burdens, but don't think for a second she isn't carrying any. She just knows how to carry them with grace. She doesn't break under pressure. She transforms, and you might not notice what she's done until long after she's gone. But you'll look back one day and realize she held it all together. She was the thread, the glue, the quiet fire that kept everything from falling apart. That's what makes her rare. That's what makes her dangerous in the most beautiful way. She's a woman of worth. Not because she's loud, but because she's steady. And when everything around her falls, she's the one still standing, not needing the world to see her strength, just strong enough to keep showing up anyway. She's the backbone even when the world looks past her. She's the reason things stay standing when everything else starts to fall apart. You may not see her name in the credits, you may not hear her voice over the noise, but make no mistake, without her, nothing moves forward. She doesn't stand at the front of the line, doesn't chase recognition, doesn't ask for a spotlight. She's not here for the applause. She's here to hold things together, and she does it with a strength so quiet, so constant, that most people don't even realize they're leaning on her until she's no longer there. She's been overlooked. She's been underestimated. She's been taken for granted more times than she can count. But she keeps showing up, keeps giving, keeps carrying weight that nobody else wants to touch, and not because it's easy. Not because it's fair, but because she knows if she doesn't do it, everything might fall apart, and so she becomes the bridge when people won't meet halfway. She becomes the peace when anger takes the room. She becomes the voice of reason when everything around her is screaming chaos. She's the one who remembers birthdays, makes doctor's appointments, stays up late when everyone else is asleep just to finish what no one else noticed needed to be done. She's the one who holds the family stories, the faith, the foundation. She prays when others forget. She prepares when others panic. She protects even when no one protects her, and yes, it's exhausting. Yes, she gets tired, but she pushes through because somewhere deep inside she knows her presence matters. Her steadiness matters, her sacrifice matters, even if no one says it out loud. People expect her to always be strong, and so she carries burdens in silence. She smiles through pain, she listens without judgment, she gives advice that comes not from theory, but from experience, hard, earned, lived, through survived experience. She's lived through heartbreak and still opens her heart. She's been let down and still lifts others up. She's been left behind and still walks alongside those who need her, and that's the thing, they need her. More than they know. She's the emotional anchor, the unspoken glue, the soul of the room. Without her, the house may still stand, but it won't feel like home. Without her, conversations lose warmth, mornings lose rhythm, moments lose meaning. But because she doesn't demand credit, people forget just how central she is. They forget until she's too tired to carry it all, and suddenly everything starts to slip. That's when they remember. That's when they realize how much she's been holding, how long she's been holding it. She's been everything to everyone. A counselor, a warrior, a nurturer, a teacher, a peacemaker, a dream defender. She plays every role even when no one acknowledges it. She's expected to be strong without being cold, soft without being weak, wise without being proud. She walks the tightrope between too much and not enough, always adjusting, always adapting, always giving more than she receives. And through it all, she stays rooted, not because the world made it easy for her, but because she learned how to survive in soil that was never made to grow anything. She learned how to bloom in places where people only expected her to break. She learned how to turn pain into power, wounds into wisdom, pressure into poise. And still, the world looks past her. Still, they see what she does, but not what it costs. They enjoy what she gives, but never ask what she needs. They rely on her strength, but never think to replenish it, and yet she doesn't stop, she doesn't shrink. Because she's not doing this for praise, and she's doing it for purpose. Her worth isn't wrapped up in opinions. It's rooted in her knowing. She knows who she is, even when others forget, even when they mislabel her silence as weakness or her consistency as convenience. She knows that the world doesn't always value the backbone until it's broken, but she's not here to be seen. She's here to stand, to support, to carry, and that takes a level of strength most people will never understand. She's been tested, she's been through fire, she's had to lift herself up while lifting others, but through it all, she never stopped being the one people run to. The one who shows up, the one who makes it all work when nothing else will. That's not weakness, that's power. That's purpose in motion. That's a woman of worth, quiet in her strength, consistent in her love, and unshakable in her calling. Grace under pressure is her superpower, not because she doesn't feel the heat, but because she knows how to stay cool when everything around her is burning. She doesn't panic when the weight gets heavy. She doesn't fold when life presses in on every side. She breathes. She centers and she keeps going. It's not that she's immune to stress. It's not that she doesn't cry when no one's looking. It's that she's learned how to hold it all without letting it break her. She's learned how to find stillness in chaos and clarity in confusion. And that, right there, is what makes her different. When the pressure rises, most people break, lash out, run, or shut down. But she leans in. She knows there's power in calm, there's wisdom in silence, and there's victory in self-control. She knows not every battle needs to be fought with fire. Some are won with stillness, with patience, with poise. She's not interested in being the loudest voice in the room. She's focused on being the clearest. She doesn't react just to react. She responds. With thought, with intention, with grace, because she knows emotions are real, but they don't have to be in control. There are moments when everything around her is falling apart. Money's tight, people are tense, her body is tired, and the future is foggy. But she still finds a way to smile. Not a fake smile, a real one, one born from faith, not fantasy, because she's been in this space before. She knows storms don't last forever. She knows pressure doesn't destroy diamonds, it creates them, and she knows that who she becomes in the fire is far more important than how fast she escapes it. See, pressure reveals character. It exposes what's beneath the surface, and when the world sees her grace in those moments, they don't always understand it. They think she's unaffected, they think she's distant, but what they don't see is what it took to get that kind of strength. They don't see the years of crying in secret, the heartbreaks she had to hold while still showing up for others, the prayers she whispered just to make it through the day. What looks like effortless peace is the product of deep, quiet battles. She's learned how to carry herself with dignity even when disrespected. She's learned how to answer cruelty with kindness, not because she's weak, but because she's wise. She knows fighting fire with fire leaves everyone burned. She doesn't lower herself to meet someone's anger. She lifts the moment by bringing peace. That doesn't mean she doesn't feel the sting. It means she's mastered the pause. She's mastered the ability to take a breath, to think twice, to speak with purpose. And that level of restraint, that level of discipline, that's power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that endures. She shows grace when the deadlines are crushing and no one's offering help. When the kids are crying, the bills are overdue, and her energy's at zero, but she still finds a way to say, "It's okay, we'll get through this." She holds the room together when everyone else is unraveling, and she doesn't do it with force. She does it with presence. With consistency, with love, even when she's exhausted, even when she wants to scream, she reminds herself that pressure doesn't define her, it refines her. And every time life tries to squeeze the hope out of her, she digs deeper, she stands taller. She knows grace isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about how you keep showing up, even when you don't feel ready, It's about how you extend patience to people who don't deserve it, how you walk with humility in places you should have run from. Grace is how she forgives before an apology, how she chooses peace when revenge is easier, how she stays soft without being naive, how she stays open without being vulnerable to destruction. That's not just kindness, that's courage in disguise. People look at her and wonder how she does it. How she carries all that pressure with such elegance. They don't see the tears behind closed doors. They don't see the internal war she wins every day. They just see the calm, the order, the strength. And that's fine because she doesn't do it for them to notice. She does it because she's built that way now. Her strength wasn't handed to her. It was shaped in fire, and her grace isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's survival, it's leadership. She knows that sometimes the greatest thing you can do under pressure is not react, is not retaliate, is not give the world your chaos. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do is remain rooted, speak gently, move slowly, and keep going. That's how she wins, that's how she heals. That's how she leads without ever needing to raise her voice. She doesn't chase validation, she owns her space. She walks into the room like she belongs there, not because someone told her she did, but because she decided it long before she stepped in. She doesn't need a nod of approval to take up space. She doesn't wait for permission to breathe, to speak, to shine. She's learned that the applause of others is temporary, but self-respect is forever. So she carries herself like someone who's already enough, because she knows she is. Not in arrogance, not in ego, but in truth, quiet, steady truth. She's not out here begging to be seen. She doesn't measure her worth by who likes her or who notices her. She's not building her identity on compliments that fade or attention that shifts with the wind. Her value isn't attached to how many people cheer when she wins. Her worth isn't based on whether the world approves of her choices, her looks, her journey. She doesn't need to impress anyone to feel important. She doesn't post to prove a point. She doesn't dress to be desired. She doesn't speak to be praised. She's not performing, she's living fully, freely. She's been through too much to base her identity on what others think. She's been misjudged, mislabeled, misunderstood, and still she rose. She's learned the hard way that people's opinions change, but purpose doesn't. That trends fade, but truth endures. So instead of running after recognition, she runs after alignment. Instead of chasing popularity, she pursues peace. She doesn't dim her light for anyone who can't handle its brightness. She doesn't shrink herself to fit spaces she was meant to outgrow. People try to box her in, tell her what she should be, how she should act, who she should please. But she's done with the performance. She's done with being liked at the cost of being whole. She's done chasing likes from a crowd that doesn't know her story, her struggle, or her spirit. Because the truth is, when you know who you are, you stop begging others to remind you. You stop needing validation that was never meant to sustain you. You stop chasing things that don't belong to you, and you start walking like everything you need is already within you. She's the woman who walks away from spaces where she's not respected, who doesn't flinch when they forget to include her, who doesn't crumble when they criticize her. She's built something deeper than confidence, it's conviction. And knowing, a stillness, a rooted sense of self that no one can take away, and it didn't come overnight. It came from being overlooked and still choosing to believe she was worthy, from being doubted and still daring to try, from being counted out and still rising to the occasion. That's the kind of strength no one can give you, and no one can take. She celebrates herself not out of ego, but because she's earned it. She doesn't need a crowd to clap for her when she wins. She claps for herself. She sees her own growth. She honors her own effort. She recognizes the beauty in becoming even when no one else notices. And when someone tries to make her feel small, she doesn't get defensive. She doesn't try to prove anything. She just keeps walking like the ground was made for her feet. There's a different kind of power in a woman who isn't moved by flattery or shaken by rejection. Who knows that being liked isn't the goal, being real is. Who understands that her energy is sacred and her time is valuable. She doesn't entertain empty conversations or chase after people who play games. She doesn't trade authenticity for acceptance. She doesn't compromise her values for connection. She doesn't need to be the most popular, just the most present, the most honest, the most herself. And that's what shakes people. That's what makes them pay attention. Not because she tried to, but because she didn't. She didn't beg to be noticed, and yet she's unforgettable. She didn't try to stand out, and yet there's something about her that lingers. Because real always lasts longer than loud, depth always draws more than noise, and purpose always outshines popularity. She's not perfect, she's not pretending to be, but she's whole, she's grounded, she's showing up for herself every day without needing someone else to co-sign her greatness. That kind of self-assurance is magnetic. That kind of inner peace can't be faked, and when she stands in a room you can feel it, even if she doesn't say a word. She owns her space not because anyone gave it to her, but because she finally realized she never had to ask for it. She builds others while still rebuilding herself, and that's not something you see every day. Because it's one thing to pour into someone when you're full, but it's a whole different kind of grace to give when you're running on empty. She wakes up some mornings with the weight of the world pressing on her chest, and still finds it in her to encourage someone else. Still finds a way to lift another, speak life into a friend, or remind someone of their worth, even when she's questioning her own. That's not just kindness, that's power disguised as compassion. You wouldn't know by looking at her. She doesn't broadcast her struggle, she doesn't lead with her wounds, but behind that smile is a story. Behind her strength is a stretch of broken pieces she's slowly putting back together. And while she's healing, she's helping others do the same. She's the type to check on you when no one's checked on her, the type to show up for you even if her legs are shaking. The type to believe in your dream while quietly trying to remember what it feels like to believe in her own. She's not made of magic, but sometimes it feels like she is. Because somehow she holds it all, the grief, the hope, the pressure, the prayers, and still manages to make others feel seen, valued, and held. That's not by accident, that's a decision to rise above the pain, even if just for a moment, so she can reach out and grab someone else's hand. She knows what it feels like to be alone. She knows the silence of suffering. That's why she refuses to let someone else go through it without at least a word of encouragement or a gesture of love. She doesn't always have the answers, and she won't pretend to, but she listens, she shows up. She makes space for others to be real because she knows how rare that is. She offers grace freely even when it's not returned, and she doesn't do it for recognition. She doesn't need to be thanked. She just knows what it's like to need someone and not have anyone, so she becomes that someone whether she's okay or not. That's real love, that's real strength. Her life isn't picture perfect, her heart still holds bruises. But she refuses to let her pain turn her bitter. She lets it make her better, she lets it teach her. And every time she helps someone else rise, something inside her begins to heal too. Not because she's ignoring her own needs, but because there's something sacred about service. Something holy about being able to lift others while learning to stand again yourself. She knows rebuilding is messy. Some days it feels like she's taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Some days she questions if she'll ever feel whole again. But then someone calls her, says, "Thank you, I needed that." And for a moment it all makes sense. For a moment she remembers why she keeps going. Not just for herself, but for every person whose light has dimmed, who needs someone to help reignite it. She's that spark, even if she's flickering too. She celebrates others with genuine joy, even when she's still waiting on her breakthrough. She cheers for someone else's miracle, even if hers hasn't come yet. That takes a different kind of heart. A heart that refuses to grow cold, a heart that refuses to stop believing, because deep down, she knows something beautiful is still being built inside her. Even if it's slow, even if it hurts, even if no one sees it yet, she's becoming just like the people she's helping. And she trusts that one day, everything she's poured out will find its way back to her. It's not easy. There are days she wants to disappear, days she wishes someone else would carry the weight, but even then, she shows up. Even then, she finds a reason to hope. She reminds others to keep going, and in doing so, reminds herself. It's a cycle. Give, build, breathe, break, heal, repeat, and through it all, she doesn't lose who she is. She becomes more of who she was always meant to be. You see, she's not just rebuilding a life, she's rebuilding faith. Rebuilding courage, rebuilding trust in a world that's given her plenty of reasons to quit. And as she puts those broken pieces back in place, one by one, she holds space for others to do the same. That's what makes her rare. That's what makes her powerful. She builds others, not because she has it all together, but because she knows what it means to fall apart and still keep going. And that kind of strength, that kind of love, it doesn't just change people, it changes everything. Her worth isn't measured by status, it's measured by legacy. She's not chasing titles, she's building something that lasts. She's not trying to be the most followed, the most recognized, the most applauded. She's not here for fleeting praise. She's here to make impact, to change lives, to leave something behind that whispers through generations long after she's gone. She knows the difference between being known and being remembered, and she's chosen remembrance not for ego, but for purpose. She might not sit at the head of the table. She might not have letters behind her name. She might not hold a corner office or own anything the world would call success. But ask the people whose lives she's touched, ask the ones she's lifted, loved, mentored, raised, healed, and they'll tell you she mattered. She mattered in ways a resume never could. She showed up when it counted. She stayed when it was hard. She gave when it cost her something, and those moments, that's legacy. You won't find her worth in her bank account. It's not stored in awards or plaques or social status. It lives in the seeds she plants every single day. The lessons she teaches her children, the strength she models when life tests her, the kindness she offers when it's least expected. The dignity with which she carries herself even when no one's watching. That's where her legacy is written, not on paper but in people. She lives knowing that influence isn't always loud, that leadership doesn't always come with a title. Sometimes it looks like late night talks with a teenager who's losing direction. Sometimes it's cooking meals no one ever thanks her for. Sometimes it's choosing to forgive, to rise, to stay soft when life's trying to harden her. Those aren't the things people take pictures of. But those are the things that last. Those are the moments that echo long after they've passed. She doesn't need to stand on a stage to feel powerful. She doesn't need 1 million followers to feel seen. She doesn't need the world to agree with her choices to know they're right. Her sense of self isn't rented from public opinion. It's rooted in something far deeper. It's rooted in knowing that when she loves, she leaves a mark. That when she leads with grace, she shifts the atmosphere. That when she lives with intention, her life becomes a testimony. There are people walking around with better clothes, bigger houses, and louder voices, but they won't leave half the imprint she will. Because legacy isn't about noise, it's about substance. It's not about stacking achievements, it's about building character. And character is what she cultivates daily, in her actions, in her patience, in her loyalty, in her courage to show up even when life is messy and uncertain. She builds something that outlasts trends, that outlives circumstances, that can't be taken away by failure or forgotten in a moment of silence. She's not living to impress, she's living to inspire. And the thing is, she might never see the full bloom of what she's planting. She might never get to witness the ripple effects of her faith, her love, her sacrifice, but she does it anyway. Because she knows legacy is not about what she receives, it's about what she gives away. The people she raises, the words she speaks, the truth she lives out, those become the foundation someone else will build on. Her love might be quiet, but it's foundational. Her discipline might go unseen, but it changes lives. Her sacrifices might not be celebrated, but they are felt deeply, and when she's no longer in the room, her presence will still be there. In the way her children carry themselves, in the way her friends speak truth because she taught them how, in the way strangers find courage from a moment she once shared. She's not chasing clout, she's chasing legacy. She's not asking the world to put her on a pedestal. She's asking herself each day, did I love well? Did I build something real? Did I leave it better than I found it? Because she knows true wealth isn't in what you earn, it's in what you leave behind. And she's leaving behind strength. She's leaving behind healing. She's leaving behind stories that will be told long after her name is gone. That kind of worth can't be bought. It can't be taught in a classroom or captured in a headline. It comes from living on purpose, from giving more than taking, from knowing that the most meaningful life isn't the one that looks good, it's the one that does good. That's her power, that's her legacy, and that is priceless. So when you see her, don't just admire her, honor her. Don't just watch her, learn from her. She is a woman of worth, not because the world says so, but because she walks like it, loves like it, lives like it. Her strength doesn't shout, but it holds. Her presence isn't loud, but it commands. She carries burdens with grace, lifts others while mending herself, and stands tall in rooms that once tried to shrink her. She doesn't seek applause, she creates impact. And when it's all said and done, her legacy won't be in trophies. It will be in people, in love, in truth, in change. That's not just power, that's purpose. That's what it means to be a woman of worth.